Alright, got another tutorial here on how to master. There is no short answer to this. I'm going to try to make this in detail as possible while keeping it as short as possible. I'm going to start off by saying that it's a lifelong journey. What I'm going to show you that I've learned is exactly that. It's what I've learned. And hopefully it helps you. I'm always open to any of your suggestions of what you've learned in this process as well. So here we go. Here is a track that I wrote a few weeks back, and we're going to master it. So I'm going to just let you hear it for a second first. Kind of start showing you what I'm doing. So this is the J37. It's just a tape machine basically. There's a number of different plugins you can get. This is Waves. It works phenomenally. So if you're not listening with studio headphones or on your monitors, you are not necessarily going to be able to hear a lot of this. So generally when you're mastering, what you want to do is you want to go to the most build up, most aggressive part of the song, and I think that's over here. There's like a little TV cue I wrote. Definitely doesn't sound like it. Maybe it is. There we go. That'll work. That's got the most content, I would say. Let's try to get a clean little loop on. I don't remember the BPM of this track. Alright. Ableton probably remembers it. Alright. So, for starters, we are going to... With the tape machine, I mostly am just trying to run it through it for the coloration. I check that the levels are hitting correctly. So you see it kind of crispies things up a little. It's nice. Next, I'm running into an API, which you could run this through any compressor. Actually, I've been using the glue as well. The goal here is... what I've got going on is my attack is completely open, release is immediately turning off, and my ratio 2 and makeup gain turned off. And basically my goal here is to have just the tiniest little tap, and only really right when it hits on the loudest parts. So I'm not really doing much, I'm just kind of catching the little peaks. So you can hear what we've done. So at this point, we've done very little to nothing, basically. At this point, I'm basically going to be advertising for iZotope because their stuff is phenomenal. A lot of that is just kind of like super subtleties building up to what we need to get over here. And all of this is going to be pretty fine. It's the super fine movement that add a lot. So what I typically would actually kind of done this first, but doing it now, sometimes it's not that big of a deal. But I would set up my limiter. Normally I just want to make sure that I'm actually having enough signal, because a lot of times my stuff's too quiet, which it kind of is now. We got enough compression there. Actually, real quick, I'll show you a trick in case you, because you know, mixing too loud, that's definitely a new thing, and when you're starting out, and then kind of next you go into the phase of mixing too quiet. At least I have. So what I'm going to do is just give it a little 6 dB boost, which is going to change my compressor, so let's affect that. Well, I can't do that when I turn it up. Sorry, trying to help the YouTube listeners. Okay, so got a little kick in the compressor, pop. Let's move over to iZotope. Everything turned on. Now we got a if you didn't know, a limiter is just a compressor with a ratio of infinity. Okay, so I just need to see a little kick here while I start to adjust over here. And let's turn this off, I'm just listening. Sounds good. Now we're going to move over to our low pass. Now if you're not listening on studio monitors, you will definitely not get this. What I'm listening for is to try to tighten up the low end. Yeah, right there. I like it. Makes it kind of bounce. Alright, so a couple things to look out for here. Tend to do a little dip, because there tends to be a little dirt in this region, 2 to 4, where your bass can just kind of bounce out a little, and it's hard for me to mix while I'm talking, so I'm just going to mix for a second. Yeah. Just kind of brings out a little more bounce in the bass. Okay. Next, I'll kind of look and try to see where there's a buildup of frequencies. Generally around 1K or so. So it's kind of just making a little more space in the mix. Makes it sound bigger. Okay, and then depending on the mix, I might roll off or roll up. I've been trying to get this more warm, kind of almost vintage sound, as opposed to the bright, kind of electronic stuff that we're hearing more. So if you wanted that sound, you could go here. So okay, next is multi-band compressor, and you could do this with lives. You could recreate it with the glue, and you could also use their multi-band compressor. My tutorial on multi-band compression shows you how to create your own. However, in this scenario, I would use an EQ to separate all the different frequency ranges. So real quick here, I'm going to dial this in. Not going to get too crazy. And so this is how you can start to really shape that slope, like I was talking about, where you're trying to go from low to high. be this. So that's what it did sound like. Alright, I would call that done, and I'll show you the last final piece here, which a lot of people aren't aware. Let me make sure I don't blow your ears off, though. Let's see here. Well, it's not for YouTube's sake, because I've got my audio running through here. You won't really be able to see what it's going to look like properly, but what I do, I don't hit the export all button. What is it? Yeah, render master to export, because the summing of Ableton, which is basically where it takes all the different tracks in your project and sums them together. So in this scenario, it's just the audio from my pre-master and my master, summing that audio together, is not actually that great. So what I do is I go through here and I re-bounce it down, resample it. So I just blank track, resample, and I like to turn that off. And so like I said, I've lowered the volume on my master fader, so it's going to be like negative 50 dB when it comes out, but you'll actually be able to see what the waveform looks like, which is kind of more important. So let's go ahead, let's listen real quick. Okay. I'm going to go back and raise that by plus 15 so you can see it afterwards. Okay, I think that's enough audio. Now let's go in here and turn off warp, and we will raise you by plus 15. So you can see what I basically have done is kind of level out things. And seeing as this is a YouTube tutorial, and this particular mix, I would say I would really want to go in and edit some of the individual parts. I just kind of grab this track. It's more or less done, I would say. But you can obviously hear the difference, so let's maybe go there. We will start out by not smashing your ears. And we've got okay, so this is what it did sound like. No effects. And this is what it does sound like. So, you know, a little bit of a difference. Alright, well, thank you for watching this tutorial, and please like and subscribe.